Shalom, shalom. This week's Parsha is Parshat Behar. And Behar talks about the Shemitah, the sabbatical year, and the Jubilee year, the Yovel year. Now, Shemitah, as we know, is that each seventh year the land should lay fallow, that we're not supposed to work the land. It has a year of rest. And then we're told to count. God says, Usfartem, that we should count 7 of these sabbatical years to the 50th year, which is the year of Yovel, Jubilee. And it tells us, because a Jubilee year is a year where there is economical, cultural, environmental rest for the people, and where the slaves are to be freed and to go back to their ancestral heritage, to go back to where they came from. And the interesting thing to note is that God tells us that should be at the end of this year, right before they're set free, the slaves, to blow the shofar on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is Yom Kippur. And on this day, we're told that to sound the shofar blast, and that this is when the slaves go free. Now, there's a very big question, because the year really starts on Rosh Hashanah, and on Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the new year. So why don't the slaves go free on Rosh Hashanah? Why don't we sound a trua specifically for that on Rosh Hashanah and have them go free in the beginning of the new year? Especially like in Judaism, in all these parshiyot, we look and it says, don't oppress your people, don't oppress. And it would seem to me, in my mind, that perhaps if he's really supposed to be set free on Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the new year, and you make him wait till the 10th till you have another blast of the shofar, that it's extending his pain and agony as a slave before he can go home. Why is that the prolonged time? And our Torah never lets us. It says, don't cause your fellow pain. God even says in this parsha, when talking about different laws that we have, that we're not allowed to have we have to be super sensitive not to cause extra difficulty for people and situations. And so I think that the answer lies in a few things. The trua, this shofar blast, is so meaningful to us, and it has a whole bunch of different purposes with war, and also on Rosh Hashanah when we have the shofar blast, because it's like a cry. So the ones for war, it makes sense, it's a battle cry. The one on Rosh Hashanah, which has a very specific rules to it, and the reason why it has these specific rules of having to be coming straight, the sound from the person into the shofar itself, no barrier in between, is that God wants there to be a connection coming from the human soul that's blowing out this sound, which is from the breath of life that God gave us, and we connect with our Creator. And on Rosh Hashanah, we use that to connect with God, to declare Him the King of the universe, and to acknowledge that God is in charge of everything. And so this is a connecting really with our soul from where it originates from. And then we go into, the Aser Yemei Tshuva, and we work on ourselves, and we have Yom Kippur, which is a day of real atonement. And hopefully at the end we come out like really a whole person. And I think therein lies the answer for the slave. Because the slave, and we're told that we have to count all these years, and counting has so much significance to us, especially now that we're doing Sfirat HaOmer, and we know that we work on character traits all the 49 days till we get to Shavuot and receive the Torah. We're supposed to be working on ourselves. So this counting indicates that there should be growth. And if there's not growth, then there's going to be a problem. If the slave worked for 49 years and is still the same person, mind, body, and soul, as he was when he started the slavery, then he definitely needs some sort of psychological transformation to take place when he's freed. He can't just be freed and let go. what has to happen is, it's like a seri imei tshuva. So in this time, we're told that he's not supposed to go home, where it says only on the 10th when the blast happens, then he goes home. But in these days in the interim, from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur, he's supposed to be with his master and celebrate with eat and drink as a free man. And I think this is so important on a psyche of an individual, is that he could have two options. A lot of times it happens to people. They can have a slave mentality. He can come as being a slave and then just run away and never shed himself from that slave mentality. And for that, he has to stay and see himself and sit with the person who he saw as his master and see himself as a free person. He's experienced this day in and day out between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and experience it until it goes into his mind that he is now not a slave to another person, and that blast that happened on Rosh Hashanah, which for other years, if he was a slave, he can hear that blast, but slaves have a different status. They're not able to keep countless amounts of commandments and things because they're not their own person. And now he can hear at the end. He hears it in the beginning and he has this freedom, but who is he? Who is he? So he has to connect now with his creator and his own free being, but he hasn't had time to be that person. So there's a 10 days, sorry, imei tshuva, where he needs to see, experience, think, decide where he wants to go. What is he going to do? Who is he? What is his person about? Because now he's his own man. He doesn't belong to anybody anymore. He belongs to himself. And he has to do that work as seeing himself as his own man and understanding and working on himself to his, right his own wrongs, whatever they were, and see, what didn't I learn? Why was my status the same for all those years? How can I grow? How can I go out into the world and not end up a slave another time? How can I be different? How can I be better? How can I do everything right this time? And then, only then, on Yom Kippur, on this day of atonement, right? A day of tshuva, a day of returning, he gets to finally return to why he was created, what his purpose was on this earth, and to become that. And only then can he go back home to his family as a strong individual with his own will and way of purpose, and without being bogged down with the slave mentality. And I think this is such an important point, is that when we're doing any counting now in Sfirat HaOmer, and we've been through many in our lives, we should get to Shavuot not with counting days, empty counting where they don't mean anything, with meaning, with building. It should be different. When we get there, it could be different. It could be a whole new way of receiving the Torah. And unfortunately, I have to say also, with counting, I can't think of counting without thinking of our hostages and how many days it's been since October 7th, and that they're held in horrible, excruciating conditions. But it's important for us when we count each and every day, when we're into it's just too many days, that each day we should count. It shouldn't be a same day as yesterday of just waiting for someone else to do something. It should be with us analyzing and changing and doing better and doing more to be enabled that they should get out, but in the right way, in a way of growth, in a position of strength, in a position of goodness, and make each of those painful days not be for nothing, but have counted. So at least when we do get them out, we've grown so much, and that we don't go back to who we were, that unfortunately let us be vulnerable to such an attack. So I hope we can all grow and learn and know and not waste our precious time. As we've learned, time is just, each second is a gift. We don't know which second is our last. Let's make it count. Let's count it a day to be counted, a moment to be counted, of meaning, of value, of significance, of importance. And with that, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.